everybody. I'll be just giving a brief review about the systemic features of the novel coronavirus. This was first identified in China, Wuhan, in 31st December 2019. It is actually called the SARS coronavirus 2 because of its close resemblance to the earlier SARS virus. Now, what were the previous epidemics we have had? One is the SARS coronavirus 1, which originated again in China from bats in 2002-2003, and it's affected around 24 countries. The second one was the MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, which originated in camels in Saudi Arabia. The only thing is these two things had a higher fatality, around 30 to 35%. So why is this virus, this present coronavirus, spreading like wildfire? The main thing, it's highly contagious, so it is having a very rapid spread. The most important positive point is it's got lower mortality compared to the previous epidemics. The mortality which we see from the Wuhan studies is only around 2 to 3%, but the scenario is changing now. When it's come to Italy and the European countries, they are having higher mortality, and in US as well, probably due to one, because it is occurring in a very high elderly population which is there. The second thing which has been postulated, but still we're not sure, is one is in countries which have universal immunization programs, BCG, countries like India and China are protected better because of this immunization program. But since this is a new infection, the updates and hypotheses keep changing day by day. So we are just presenting what is available as of today. So coming to the structure, it's one of the largest coronavirus, RNA virus, and the name is from its crown-like appearance is due to its spike proteins. It has got 4 genera. The common cold, which is caused by coronavirus, belongs to the alpha lineage, whereas the SARS, MERS, and this present COVID-19 belongs to the beta group. Now, if you see the structure, it has got 4 types of proteins. The most important is the spike proteins, to which it attaches to the receptors. So usually these are zoonotic infections. The natural host are bats, and humans are just an accidental or a terminal host. Coming to the physical properties, it is sensitive to heat and ultraviolet radiation. It can be inactivated by ethyl alcohol and chlorine-containing disinfectants. At least 60 to 70% of alcohol should be present. And it's quite a large virus with a 30 kilobase. Sorry, there's been some technical error. So regarding the transmission of this coronavirus, initially it was only among animals. Then it spread from animals to humans. And now it is human to human. So the most important thing is the human infection can either be symptomatic or asymptomatic. Initially, when this disease started in Wuhan, the percentage of asymptomatic carriers were very less, but now it looks like the asymptomatic carrier percent is increasing, and these asymptomatic people can have secretions which are infective when 1 to 3 days before the clinical symptoms. So how is it transmitted? Mainly by respiratory droplets, which occurs during cough, sneeze, or even during normal speaking it can occur. So most important thing is you must instruct the patient not to talk when you're examining the patient. All questions should be asked only after the end of the clinical examination, when they are seated after around with the specific distance of 2 meters. The second method, it can come through aerosol transmission when you have prolonged contact in close spaces. It can also occur through fomites, contact with infected secretions, and very close physical contact. So how long does this virus survive? Usually it is seen for about 3 hours in the air and up to 72 hours in hard, shiny surfaces. So you have to be very careful about disinfecting your tabletops, door handles, and mobile phones, and up to 24 hours in cardboard boxes. So the incubation period is roughly from 3 to 7 days. It can go up to 2 weeks. Now, the most important thing is the basic reproduction number, which we call as R0. The number of patients infected by this present virus is around 2.2 to 2.5, whereas in influenza it was only around 1.3. And there is a group called super spreaders who can spread or infect a lot of people because of the travel history, a very weak immune system, or prolonged contact with a lot of people. These people can infect even 20 to 30 persons or contacts at a time. And this epidemic can double every 7 days. Now, where does this virus bind? It attaches to the ACE receptors, which is found throughout the body, but is usually mostly abundant in the lung. And it can attach to receptors in the GIT, kidneys, and the heart. And people on ACE inhibitors, it has been postulated, may be predisposed to serious infections if they get it. So what are the common clinical features? Fever is the commonest presenting symptom, which occurs in more than 70% of the cases, but few people can be afebrile at the time of presentation. 60 to 80% will have a dry cough. It can present with sore throat, muscle pain, fatigue. Nasal congestion and stuffiness is not very common here, unlike influenza. They can present with GI symptoms like diarrhea, and sometimes some people present with loss of taste or not able to smell. That can be one of the important presenting features. Shortness of breath is a very important symptom which shows that the disease is going for a serious progress. Nowadays, we have noticed that around 40% of people are presenting with neurological symptoms like confusion. Some of the serious complications are the onset of pneumonia and respiratory failure. They can go in for an acute respiratory distress syndrome, present with myocarditis, septic shock, renal failure, or a multiple end organ failure, which is called as MODS. Now, not everybody will go in for complications. There is a high-risk group. This high-risk group is usually elderly persons above the age of 65, having comorbid conditions, particularly diabetes, COPD, CAHT, hypertension, renal disease, malignancy, and Parkinson's disease. The Chinese disease center classification, luckily most of the patients were only mild, 81% had only mild. Moderate was just pneumonia, which could be reversible. It was the severe cases, which was around 14%, who had shortness of breath, dyspnea, the pulse, SpO2 fell below 93%, and CT scan showed bilateral lung infiltrates within a short period of 24 to 48 hours. Critical disease occurred in less than 5% of the cases who presented with either respiratory failure, septic shock, or multiple organ failure. Now, what is the pathogenic mechanism? The viral infection triggers an excessive immune reaction. So there's release of interleukin-6 and other cells, acute cell phase reactants. There is extensive cell damage due to this interleukin-6, which produces what is called a cytokine storm. But now there are newer postulates which has just come in. It is said that the SARS-CoV-2 attacks the beta chain of hemoglobin. Due to this, the hemoglobin, there is increased compensatory synthesis reflected as increased hemoglobin and blood parameters, increased ferritin production, and there is excessive monocytosis. So all these can lead to an increased blood viscosity with micro and macro thrombosis, which can again become a terminal event. So what are the lab investigations to diagnose? RT-PCR is the gold standard, is usually taken from upper respiratory tract, nasal or oropharyngeal. It can be done from the sputum, or if it's a ventilated patient, you can do it from endotracheal aspirate and bronchoalveolar lavage. Now we have recently a lot of other screening tests like the antibody test, and now recently the FDA has approved the saliva testing also. Coming to the other investigations, CT chest will show a ground glass opacity, which is usually peripheral and bilateral. It has got around 97% sensitivity and 25% specificity. And blood picture will show gross leukopenia and lymphocytopenia. Lymphocytes less than 1,000 is a very poor prognostic indicator. There will be increased in liver enzymes and C-reactive protein. Poor prognostic indicators are very severe lymphopenia, high amylase, coagulation abnormalities, and increased D-dimer. So what are the indications for immediate hospitalization? Mild cases can be treated at home with isolation. If there is an onset of respiratory distress, if there is chest pain and acute confusional status, they have to be immediately hospitalized. The treatment of patients is mainly isolation. It's only supportive care. There is no specific vaccine or specific antiviral to cure the virus. Respiratory distress can be treated with high flow oxygen and mechanical ventilation. Fever can be treated with azithromycin if there is a superadded bacterial infection. Azithromycin 500 milligrams OD for 5 to 10 days, depending on the clinical severity. The most important thing, systemic NSAIDs have to be avoided because they can aggravate the problem. The newer concepts in critical care for the very severely ill patients, they are thinking about anticoagulation, plasmapheresis, and blood transfusions. So some of the drugs which are used, what is now in common discussion is chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine, which are age-old drugs. These do not cure the disease. It can just change the pH of endocymes and prevents the viral entry, so it reduces the viral load. Now, the indications for hydroxychloroquine at present is only for severely ill COVID-positive patients, healthcare workers who are in close contact with them, and household contacts of patients who are infected. And since hydroxychloroquine has some tendency to produce cardiac arrhythmias, patients with the congenital heart disease, it's better to have a consultation with the cardiologist, have a baseline ECG and echo, and do a serum electrolytes before starting chloroquine or hydroxychloroquine. Ivermectin is an antiparasitic drug, which is now said to be, with a lot of in vitro studies have shown a great promise for this in future. The most important thing now I want to stress is avoid nebulizers in any fever case now, because they can generate aerosols and spread the virus. So prevention, as we already know, whenever the R naught reduces to less than 1, this can slowly reduce. So the main ways is social distancing, wearing of hand mask, frequent hand wash, isolation of suspect, and PPE for all healthcare workers. So who needs to be tested for this? Mainly family members who are in contact with COVID positive, history of travel to hotspot areas, healthcare workers in close contact, any history of respiratory distress. So resolution of the pandemic, we are not sure, may take months to years. That's $1 million question. So the best way of improving or reducing this is to slowly build our herd immunity. So this is expose the younger individuals to a milder infection and protect the elderly by keeping them at home till the situation improves, what is called as reverse cocooning. So stay at home, be positive, do plenty of relaxation and yoga, and always say namaste and avoid handshakes.